welcome back to the Fibre Nest podcast. This is my 4th episode. My name's Danny. I'm a maker living in Kent in England. It's been a while since I last recorded. Lots of health issues and life issues got in the way of me recording. So I'm a bit out of practice. Not that I was necessarily very much in practice with my amazing 3 episodes. Just be kind. I'll hopefully get back into the groove of things as we go along. Okay, so today is Monday, so it's the first Monday after Christmas. So hope everybody's having a really nice break. Also posting this after Vlogmas because I guess there's lots of fabulous videos that have been posted up on YouTube for people to watch, so hopefully this will fall kind of in that lull when everybody else is relaxing and not making podcast videos. So I'm going to start with talking about some FOs. And the first one was inspired kind of by It Is a Sarah podcast. So some time ago, I think it was probably back in October, Sarah showed a project bag that I think was made by a maker in the Netherlands. And it was very vintage style. I think it was made out of vintage fabric, and I love vintage stuff. So I was very tempted, went and had a look at the website of the bag maker, and they were a bit pricey, really. They were a bit, I think probably, it was more than I wanted to spend on a project bag, but I really like the style. So I thought, well, I've got a sewing machine, I can make project bags. So instead of paying somebody else to make a vintage project bag for me, why don't I just make one? So I decided to look for vintage pillowcases on eBay, because if they're pillowcases, then a lot of the work's already done for you, because they're kind of in the a kind of baggish shape. So my first make, which is down here, is my vintage project bag made out of vintage pillowcases and some odds and sods I had lying around. So that's the outside pillowcase, and that's the inside one. Probably a pattern that's quite familiar to certainly people from the UK. I remember this kind of pastel candy stripe pattern from when I was a kid, sort of back in the 80s maybe. So yeah, the lining is one vintage pillowcase. Outside is another one, so they cost me no more than about £6 for the 2 pillowcases from eBay. And then it's a drawstring, because I don't really like zips, because I don't want to catch my yarn in it. So the bit here, the sleeve that the ties run through, is from the bottom of an old curtain lining that I had lying around. And then the cords, again, I already had these at home. Did a boxed bottom. It's not perfect. I think there's a hole in it somewhere. Is there a hole? Yeah. Didn't quite catch it there. You probably can't see that very well. Anyway, it's not perfect. Bit of a dodgy bag. But it's a really good size. It holds, what have I got in it at the moment? I've got several, probably about 10 10 balls of yarn waiting for me to cast on Felix pullover. So that's all in here. So that's my first FO, which I'm really happy about and feel pretty smug about it, to be honest. So for a really good tutorial for making box bottom bags, go to Little Drops of Wonderful. Ali has made a really good video tutorial over there for how to make a box bottom project bag. I'll try and link below if I remember to. In fact, I'll make a note here to do so. Right. So my next FO is this. So I might have shown it before, I can't remember. It's a pattern that I've used before and really like. So it's a kind of nice drapey viscose type material that I bought from Pound Fabrics a while ago. I don't think they still have it. I showed another top that I made from the same sewing pattern, I think in my first episode. Little button closure at the back with a button I already had in my button jar, and this had been made up for ages, but it just needed the bottom hem doing. So let me show you. So I did a rolled hem. I can't really see it very well, but anyway, so very out of season as it's December, but very pleased that that's now finished and it can go in my wardrobe, because it's been sitting there hanging from my shelves for quite a while, waiting for me to tell you all about it. So that's that. Another FO that I'm wearing is my Elton sweater, Hohi Locatelli. I'll stand up. So so this is kind of the middle of my hip. I've spoken about the yarns before for this pattern, so I won't repeat it again here. I'd kind of got a bit stuck because in the pattern quite a few people mentioned that the allowance here to pick up stitches for the sleeve wasn't quite enough, and I didn't realise that until it was too late and I'd kind of knit all of the body. So I really did struggle picking up enough stitches. So you might be able to see actually. It kind of, it's quite tight there. So what I did is I picked up as many stitches as I could, which was quite tricky because this is the paler stripe here is a mohair yarn. So I picked up as many as I could, which wasn't quite what the pattern called for. But then what I did was in the next knit row, I increased the stitches enough so it matched the amount of stitches required for the pattern. And then I didn't do any decreases for the whole sleeve. But in the pattern, it does ask you to do decreases. But I thought because people had said on Ravelry about the stitch count not being quite right for the sleeves, I just thought, well, I'll just stick to the amount that I'd already increased to and then knit down. So I'm really happy with it anyway. Haven't really worn it much because it's more of a spring knit really, but it's ready now to go for the coming spring. So I look forward to wearing this. So this is one FO, and then another one is a shirt that I made for my son. So I've got a photo of it which I'll insert. Just making a note of that there. So he insisted on having a shirt made by me for his birthday back in October, and of course I obliged, because what does any maker want more than their offspring to say, please, can you make me something? So I haven't got the shirt with me, but I've got the pattern here somewhere. Where is it? Right. So this is the pattern. So it's a Burda sewing pattern. It's 9209. So it calls, so the sizing, it's European sizing. It's graded as super easy. I wouldn't quite say it was super easy, because there's a lot of construction needed in a shirt, especially for doing a collar. There's two options. There's the collarless version that you can see there, and then the collar there. And I can't quite think what it's called. Maybe you can see there on the back. There's kind of probably the equivalent knitting term would be yoke. So there's kind of a yoke on the back. I don't know what it's called in terms of sewing, but that needed to be double layered. I mean, it was fine, but yeah, I wouldn't call it super easy. In terms of sizing, the US sizes are 4 to 11, and I sewed size 5. It needs cotton, muslin or poplin. Needed 6 buttons and a bit of interfacing. I was pretty pleased with how it turned out. Something went wrong a bit with the sleeve when I was, it was like a set-in sleeve, and there's a little tuck on the back of the sleeve, but you wouldn't really notice unless you were looking for it. So he was made up with it. I'm really pleased with it. Didn't take me too long. I would say it's probably intermediate level rather than super easy, but I would certainly make one again. I think the thing that was the biggest pain was tracing out all the pattern pieces, because of course as he gets older he's going to need bigger shirts, so I didn't want to cut up the pattern in his current size and then not be able to use it again for him. So that was a bit of a pain, but otherwise, yeah, really pleased with how it turned out. And again, the fabric, most of my fabric I think probably comes from Pound Fabrics, so I got the fabric from there. Don't know if they still have the fabric. So my other FO, which I was working on last time, and which I'm not so pleased with, was the February lady sweater, which I will put on now. So I will show you why I'm not so pleased with it. I mean, it's nice and squishy. So I made it, I can't remember what yarn I made it out of. It's a superwash yarn. But when I blocked it, and I don't know whether it's because, I've just put it on inside out. I don't know whether it's because it's superwash or whether it's garter stitch for the yoke, or maybe a combination, or like the weight of the yarn, not the thickness of the yarn, but it's quite heavy. So there we go. So the sleeves are a bit longer than I wanted them to be. I kind of wanted them to be up here, kind of probably about bracelet length, but because it's lace, when I blocked it, and I tried not to block it too aggressively, it really stretched out. And then the length as well, I mean, you can't see here, so I'm on my very tiptoes, but it kind of almost is to the bottom of my bum, so it's a lot longer than I wanted it to be, and it's quite oversized. So I mean, you can see that is where my armpit is, and there's quite a lot of fabric there, so it kind of feels a bit heavy and sloppy. So it's not quite the look I wanted, but it's done. And I can't face ripping it back on the sleeves. I think the length in the body would be fine, but even here, it just, on camera, it just looks a bit sloppy, really. And this is bigger than I wanted it to be, the neckline. I think I used Drops Big Merino, I think. Yeah, I think if the sleeve had been stockinette, I mean, so look, the cuff is garter as well. If it had been stockinette, then maybe I would have picked it up and made it the length that I want it, because the way it is at the moment, I don't really want to wear it, which is a shame. But it's lace, and the thought of trying to pick that up accurately fills me with dread. So I don't know. I don't know if I can try and shrink it or something. But anyway, so that's it. That's done. I wouldn't knit another one. I like the pattern, but I guess I'm disappointed with the outcome. And I don't know whether it's a me thing or a yarn thing, or a combination of how it blocked out. When I'd first finished it, I hadn't really wanted to block it out because I liked it was the right size when I finished knitting it, and it was exactly the length and size in terms of the body and the arms that I wanted. So I was quite I'll just put a sweater on because I'm feeling a bit chilly. Yeah, I didn't really want to block it because it was already the length I wanted it to be, but then I thought, well, I wanted to see how the lace blocks out. So I did block it, and I don't know if that was the right decision or not. But anyway, there we go. So and shamelessly wearing a shop bought sweater on my knitting podcast. Anyway, so so those are all the FOs. In terms of whips, I've got a mitten for my son to match a hat that I knitted him, which I think you saw maybe in the 3rd episode. Not sure. Anyway, DK yarn. This is Tin Can Knit's easiest mitten pattern, which was pretty easy actually. Although the size that I've knit him, I don't know if it's, well, I didn't do a gauge swatch because I was just keen to get on with it. But the wrist here, even though it's ribbed, it's quite small for him to get his hand into. But he can get his hand into it, and I can't face doing it again. So we'll see how long it lasts. So I'm halfway through the second one of these. Then in terms of the next whip, I've got 2 socks where I'm on sock heel island. So this is some of the perfect yarn I think I spoke about last time, Arnie and Carlos Regia. So I've knit, and now the yarn has changed colour back to the solid. So when it gets to the solid colour, you can't really see that very well. That's when you start to knit the heel. So I've ground to a halt because the heel that I prefer is the heel flap and gusset, and I can't remember that off the top of my head, and it's just a faff because I don't want to have to stop and look at how to do the heel. So I've ground to a halt on this one. So this is the first sock of the pair with that yarn, and then I showed this last time as well. And this is about where I would want to put the heel for this sock. You can see some nice colour pool in there. So again, heel island. So at some point I will pick them up and do the heels, but I'm not feeling heels at the moment. But it will get done. I saw I was watching the most recent episode of Will and Wishes podcast, and Tracy was showing her box of socks that she worked on over the year, and that kind of inspired me to knit some more socks. So last night after watching it, I ordered the liner 52 Weeks of Socks Volume 2 book. So hopefully I'll be getting that in the next couple of days, and that will inspire me to knit up some socks, because I've got loads of sock yarn, and I tend to pretty much exclusively knit vanilla socks. It will either be just a vanilla sock, or is it Rose City Rollers maybe? Yeah, those two patterns I don't knit. I've not knit and finished any other sock pattern, so it'll be nice to have a change. My next whip is the Lamina shawl. So I spoke last time about slaying your dragons, from the It Is a Sarah podcast. She'd mentioned it on her podcast, and I thought, well, how about during December I finished last December's Advent project. So I didn't finish it, but I did add quite a few stripes, and I kind of ground to a halt because I messed up on the lace pattern, and again I can't be bothered to unpick it. I have so little knitting time. The thought of unpicking something, no. And I made a couple of mistakes. So the Lamina shawl pattern I mentioned, I think, in my last episode. So this is an Amber O'Brien pattern, knit with last year's Advent. No, is it last year's? No, the year before. Year before Advent. So these are the colours. Kind of trying to do a gradient-ish with the colours that I was sent. And I will show you the two mistakes that I've made. Well, multiple mistakes actually. So you can see how the lace pattern is meant to look. See that, the blue row, blue section, you can see the lace pattern really well. And then if you look here at this one, I really messed it up. And I don't know how. I messed it up, but I did. No, is this one, look? Yeah. No, not that one. This one. Yeah. Completely messed it up. Not sure how. I could see it was going wrong as I was knitting it. And I was reading my knitting and I just couldn't, it looked right to me. But it's wrong. But again, who's going to notice? I'll know, but you know, it's not going to bother me that much. And then another mistake that I made is I miscounted my garter rows, and I've got too many. So you can see that the lace pattern kind of has a ripple effect on the contrast colour, but I don't know, the combination of messing up the lace pattern on this row, on this section, and doing too many rows on this section. I don't know if this section will have the same shape as the other contrast rows, but as I've said, I'm not a fan of ripping things out. I haven't got the patience, so I will rather just have it look a bit dodgy, which isn't the end of the world. I mean, honestly, who's going to notice? So yeah, I didn't get it finished in December. I know it is still December, but this is not going to get finished in the next 48 hours. It's not. But anyway, I made some progress on that, so I've shown it. Right. Other WIPs. So I've only got another 2 WIPs that I've been actively working on. So for some reason, I don't know, I'm not sure why, my granny stripe blanket, maybe because I was kind of wanting to work on something scrappy and felt disappointed by the Lamina wrap, with the mistakes that I made in that. I still had an appetite for doing something scrappy. So my granny stripe blanket, been working on this quite a lot, put quite a few inches on it. So there we go. I'll slowly move it down the screen. I can't remember how long the foundation chain was. There we go. Just random minis that I've got in my stash. So I have, from about there, put this much on. So I'll hold it nearer so you get a sense of the colours. There we go. So I just picked up whatever colour I fancied kind of including next. No rhyme or reason, just pretty random. So this is nice, and it's quite nice because when I'm crocheting on it, I don't need to read a pattern. I can just crochet, and it's big enough now so that it kind of feels like a blanket, so the kids come and snuggle under my WIP while I'm working on it. So that's quite nice. But I feel the need to work on something else as well. So I've been working on that quite a lot over the Christmas break. I can just pick it up and put it down without having to look at anything. And then the other one that I've been working on, I think, let me remind myself. So it's the Nordic Bloom by Caitlin Hunter from this pattern book. Nordic Knits from Lina. Lina have a sale on at the moment with not all but quite a few of their pattern books and their kind of quarterly magazine type publication. So that's patterns from this, and I'm actually feeling quite proud of this. Let me show you. So I plan to do both the sleeveless version and the full cardigan version. I'm using Drops Alaska. This is colour 73, and it's 70 meters to 50 grams. So I think it's like an Aran worsted weight. And it's steeked. I've never steeked before. Looks a bit of a mess, but I'll show you in a sec. I'm using my Knit Pro Zings 5mm, and this is what I've done so far. So it's bottom up. You can see the steek section in the middle, and in the pattern, the colour work, the kind of flower motif is done in one colour, but I saw it and I thought, wouldn't that be lovely if you did it to make it look more flower-like? So I've got like a dark green there for the leaves and the stems, kind of a mustardy golden colour for the centre of the flower, and then a kind of burnt red colour for the petals. So really made up with that. On some rows it was three 3-colour work, which I don't think I've done before. I'm not sure how much. So the Drops Alaska is non-superwash. My floats, bit of a mess. Not too bad, actually. Yeah. And I need to, at some point, I need to steek it. So at the moment, I'm working on the left. So you do decreases up here, which look nice and neat. And then, yeah, so round in the round until you split for sleeves. And then, so this is the left front. The next thing to do on this is short rows. Short rows is always something that I need to kind of, I don't remember how to do it, so I need to check one of my knitting books to tell me. Sorry if you can hear banging. It's my son playing cricket inside with his dad. What was I saying? Yeah, short rows. So short rows, I always need to read how to do it. And the reason also why I've hit a block with the socks is as soon as I've got to read something, I just lose the momentum. But I will pick it up again soon. We've got lots of snow coming apparently, and this would be so nice and snug to wear in the winter. I kind of want this done before the end of the winter. So I will try and pick this up again soon. When I've got more headspace, I'm kind of feeling a bit more rested. I've had a bit of time off work and I've been able to have a few lie-ins. So hopefully I'll have the wherewithal to remind myself how to do short rows. So let me just put this away. Yes, so that's the last of my whips. In terms of acquisitions, I'm not going to share my acquisitions because that would mean sharing 2 months worth of acquisitions with you, and I think if I'd had to do that I wouldn't have recorded, because the thought of having to get everything out would just put me off. So I'm not going to share that. I guess in terms of Slay Your Dragons, which I spoke about in the last episode, where it was for September, was it? Yes, I think it was. Yeah. So it is Sarah. She had a Slay Your Dragon September, and I was doing that as well. And my focus was to use up stash, and to kind of catch up with some online CPD for work that I bought, which I've done a bit of, but not too much, for the same reason that I've not recorded a podcast in ages because of health issues that just meant that at the end of the day I've just wiped out and had to go straight to bed. So I'm trying to make some changes so that hopefully I'll have a bit more, I'll just be healthier and have a bit more left in the tank at the end of the day. So I'm going to continue to work on reducing my stash. I've organised my stash. So this room, the last time I recorded was a state, but what I've done over the Christmas break is I've bought some flat pack furniture, some big wardrobes, so that I can put everything away. So it looks a lot nicer now. It's a lot neater, it's more organised. It just feels nice being in here. And I can get to stuff and I can see stuff, and there's not just piles of stuff everywhere. So hopefully that means that I will use this space more and craft more. My cutting table, which you're now sitting on, is pretty much clear. which means that my sewing will be more accessible. So I've got a pattern that's been cut out, a sewing pattern for a top that's been cut out and waiting to be sewn for months, probably since August. But I've made some space now, so hopefully I'll sew that soon. Although it's kind of a spring summer top, so I don't know, maybe I'll make something else in the meantime. But anyway, I'm drifting and rambling. So stash, yes, health. So hopefully knowing where everything is, being able to get to everything, being able to get to my sewing machine and my cutting table and all that jazz will mean that I will be more consistently making. And because this room now feels clean and nice and cozy, I want to be in here making stuff. So hopefully there'll be more activity in that regard. So I'm going to continue working on reducing my stash. So I guess, what else did I want to tell you about? Maybe so after seeing Ali's video on, I can't remember what it's called, but the Yarn Fest that's in Yorkshire, that was kind of autumn last year. It looked great, and I, on the spur of the moment, I just booked to go next year, booked accommodation, booked to go, because I'd really enjoyed the Southern Wool show, but wanted to see what a bigger show had to offer and something in a different part of the country as well, and have a bit of a knit break. So I've booked to go there for next year. I've also booked to go to the Lay Family Yarn Knitting Retreat in June. Going to be going to France with some friends in the summer holidays, and some of them want to go. So where we'll be staying is about half an hour away from Paris. So some of them are speaking about going on a day trip to Paris. I've already been there before, and I've seen everything that I wanted to see when I went in terms of sightseeing. So I don't really want to go on a day trip sightseeing, but was having a look online to see what yarn shops there are. Of course, there's La Bien-Aimée, but yeah, I thought, well, you know, what other yarn shops are there in Paris? So I've kind of got an idea that I will go with my friends to Paris for the day, and I'm going to go on a yarn crawl around Paris on my own. They're not knitty friends, and they would have no interest in going on a yarn crawl with me, which suits me down to the ground, actually. I don't mind going off on my own and exploring. So I found a website where there was some ideas for a route to take for a yarn crawl. So I'm going to plan that, but that's not going to be happening for a while yet. That won't be till August, I think. So I'm going to try and limit my yarn purchasing to in-person events. I don't have a yarn shop near me, so it will only be, I guess my opportunities to buy yarn will be the Yorkshire Yarn Fest, I can't remember what it's called, the Paris Yarn Crawl, and the Lay Family Yarn Knitting Retreat. So trying to reduce my stash and use it up, use what I've got, because I guess one of the things that I've realised with sorting this room out and organising things and putting them away is that I've got lovely yarn to use, but the problem is I couldn't really see what I had because it wasn't stored in a way where I could easily see what I had. It was still all kind of in jiffy bags and things, and the parcel wrapping and shoved in a corner. So now that I've had the opportunity to get it out and really look at it, I can actually use it. I'm very lucky. I've got some really lovely stuff, and I'm excited about using what I've got. Really, I've curated a really lovely collection of craft materials. So yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to show you more of that over the coming year. What else did I want to say? I think that's it really. Just quite a short video for today, just to kind of check in again. Wanted to say as well that you can find me on Ravelry as the Fibre Nest, Instagram as the Fibre Nest. On Ravelry, I have also set up a Fibre Nest Ravelry group, so a couple of people have already been across there and left a message. So do come and leave a message on the kind of chat, the forum board. It'd be good to kind of get to chat to some of you, find out who's on the other side of this screen, and who's listening to what I've got to say. So yeah, so thank you for watching. If you've got this far, please leave a comment below or an emoji. It's always good to know that there's people out there listening to what I've got to say, even if it's incoherent. But yeah, also hope you all have a happy new year, and see you on the other side. Okay, thank you. Bye.